Hey guys, Uma here from Dagron Gaming, and this video is going to be a little bit different. For my item guides, I usually write a script. That way I don't forget anything, even though sometimes I do, because Dota is a very complex game, and it's very difficult to keep track of every little detail. I get a lot of suggestions, and sometimes I go and fix some things, put a little annotation. This video is basically just going to explain how items work, and it's not going to be specific to any single item or to any single hero. This is basically just a general idea of what you should know, especially if you're new to Dota. And even if you're a little bit experienced, sometimes you don't realize the more important points. So to start this video off, I'm going to say that all items are situational. I know I've said this in a few of my videos. That's because it is a very important point that you should know. There is no single best build for a hero. If you go on Dota Buff, usually you see like the most popular build for the week, and it's usually most popular because a pro player will build those items, and then everybody watches and they immediately think, wow, these are the best items, but they don't actually look at why they built those items. Usually they just see that this pro player, this guy that gets paid, this guy that's really, really good at Dota, just built these items, so I should try it myself. That's not what you should be focusing on, especially if you're new. You should try to focus on learning how these items work and how they fit your hero, your team, and the other team. So there are a few things to look at when building your items. The first thing you should look at is your hero. Are you playing a support? Are you playing a carry? Are you mid? Are you offlaning? Or are you just roaming around trying to secure kills? Are you an invis hero? If you're an invis hero, they're probably going to be warding with sentry wards or have a lot of detection. If you're mid, you should be very careful, especially since you can get ganked kind of easily. So you should have wards at the rune spots or wards at least very close by. If you're support, you should be buying items that help your team more than yourself, because it is much more important that the carry survives rather than you. If you're the carry, you should be building items that go very well with your hero and are very good against the other team's heroes. The other thing you should look at is your team's heroes. Are there other supports on your team? Are there other carries? What items do they get? You have to look at all these things because items don't stack, or some of them don't stack, which means if you get an Assault Cuirass, that means your other team member can't get an Assault Cuirass, because then it's just a waste of money pretty much, since you're already giving away that armor aura. They should probably get something like a Shiva's Guard or something like that if they need the armor. Or maybe that hero needs the armor more than you do, so you should just get something else. If you're support, you should remember that some items don't stack with their healing auras, like mechanisms. Multiple mechanisms will not stack. Multiple Guardian Greaves will not stack. Multiple Pipe of Insights will not stack. You can each get a different one, and those auras do stack, but try to make sure that you're not getting the exact same thing that your teammates are getting. The last thing you should look at is the other team's heroes. What items do they get? So sometimes their carries will get very, very strong items that do a lot of damage. So you have to get something that negates that damage. Sometimes they get an item that gives them a lot of physical damage, so you have to get more armor items in order to survive those fights. You have to look at what kind of damage they can make, what kind of damage they create. So if there are a lot of magic heavy heroes, you should get something that negates magic damage, especially if you're a support, or a tanky offlaner. You should get a Pipe of Insight, for example, because it negates a very large amount of magic damage, and it is very good for your team. If they're all physical damage heroes, then you should get something with a lot of armor. And again, if you're a support, you should get something that gives your team a lot of armor. If they have pure damage, that one is a little trickier, because pure damage cuts through everything, which means the damage that it says that it will do is the damage that you will take. There's no real way to fight that. You basically just have to kill that hero before he can cause all that damage, or just become very, very tanky and have a lot of health regen. You basically just have to coordinate with your team and target that hero to make sure that he can't do all the damage that he can, or else you might lose a team fight. Now, once you've studied your team, the other team, and your hero, then you have to pick items that go very well with your position. If you are a support, you should always be getting support items. If you are a carry, you should be getting carry items. Both positions are very, very important. You can't win a game with just supports, and you can't win a game with just carries unless you basically just snowball in and do as much damage as you can. That does happen a lot, actually, but it can be countered, especially early game. If you're a support, wards are very, very important. They save your team. Defensive wards allow you to farm safely in the jungle or in the lane, and offensive wards allow you to see where the enemy team is at and allow you to make a plan with your team, probably go gank that hero that's jungling or stuff like that. A carry should never buy the wards, but occasionally you play a game in like all random and someone randoms a support and they immediately say that they're building as a carry, so you kind of just have to go with it, or else you'll just lose the game not immediately, but you will lose the game. If nobody supports, you're going to lose the game. So even if you're carry, just buy like a ward or two, because they are very, very important. Another thing you should think about is you should pick items that you are very comfortable with. It doesn't matter if it's part of the meta. You should always remember that metas change from patches, from people playing a hero differently, from pro players playing a hero differently. If you are more comfortable building an item on a certain hero, then go ahead and build it, because it's better than buying an item that you have no idea how it really works. A good example of this is if you watch my mechanism video. When playing as Darkseer, I never actually used the mech except for probably once. That's because I'm not really used to getting a mech and being the support, especially on Darkseer. When I play Darkseer, I usually play him as the offlane tank, so I usually just use mech when I'm in trouble, which is not a good thing, to be honest. That's actually a very bad way to play him, but that's just how I play him. That's just because I'm comfortable playing him that way. But when I get Guardian Greaves, yeah, then I immediately use it whenever my teammates need it. But that's just how I play. Everyone plays differently. I know a player that never buys Soul Ring on Tinker, even though it's a really good item. He just never buys it because he doesn't think it's that important. He basically just buys other items that are also very good on Tinker. This is all basically just based on experience, which is another thing. If you're experienced with that hero, then you should already know what kind of items you should get. Just go ahead and get those items if you're not entirely sure. The supports are pretty easy. You can just buy like arcane boots and a mech. You can buy a few other items for your team, and that's that. That's what a support does. It's not that complicated, but it's very important that you get those items because you need your team alive. If you're playing carry, it's a lot different because carries vary. There's certain items that don't help them. There's certain items that do help them. It's basically just how you play that hero. The last thing you should know is that items do change, so you should always, as soon as there's an update, you should read the patch notes, because sometimes they change how an item works, or the cooldown, or the cost. So you should always pay attention to that, because that's basically when a meta pretty much changes, is when an item doesn't give you that bump that it used to, so you buy a different item to make up for that. If you want to learn more about that, you can watch some hero guides, or you can watch some live games from pro players playing. I know I said that wasn't like the best way to do it, but pro players will immediately analyze the patch notes and they will pick the next best thing, and that's a good thing to go off of. I know that sounds a little confusing, but Dota is a very confusing game. That's just how it is. To summarize what I've just said, all items are situational. You should always look at your hero, your team's heroes, and the other team's heroes. Always pick items that go with your position. Always pick items that you are comfortable with. And items change. These are very important things to remember, especially since Dota is such a complex game. And if you're new, try not to worry about it too much. You will get into the groove of it. You will eventually learn how all this stuff works. It might take a while. It might not take a while. It basically just depends on the person. And that's completely fine. Just keep practicing. Read up on the items. Read up on the heroes. Watch some hero guides. Watch the item guides. It just takes a little bit of time. It's fine if it takes you a really long time to figure it out. It's cool if it takes you just a little bit of time to figure it out. Everyone's different. So that'll do it for this video. There's probably a lot of stuff that I forgot to mention, and I will probably make a second part to this, especially with the information that I missed. So let me know what you guys think, especially about this format, since I just basically started talking. Please go ahead and give us a like and subscribe to the channel for more videos. Next week I'll be doing another item guide. I'm basically just going to pick one at random now that I've done all the boots. So thank you for watching.